schools in Ottawa County and across the state are now working closely with medical experts to spread facts, not fear.
Beginning Monday, all schools across the state will be closed.
Come Monday, all K through 12 schools in Michigan will be closed for the next 3 weeks.
Governor Whitmer has announced the closure, as we mentioned, of all schools K through 12.
In an abundance of caution, I am ordering the closure of all K-12 school buildings in Michigan for 3 weeks.
My name is Lisa Foy, and I teach 5th grade.
I'm Jennifer Hopkins. I teach 2nd grade at Lakewood Elementary.
I am Mrs. Meyer, and I teach IB Math SL.
My name is Ryan Burke, and I teach science classes here at the high school. I'm currently teaching chemistry, anatomy, physiology, and AP biology.
Lindsay Welcott is my name, and I teach broadcasting courses at West Ottawa High School.
On March 13th, I was shocked. I was surprised. We were supposed to have parent-teacher conferences right before that, and I remember being totally shocked that those were canceled.
I remember the days prior to that Thursday evening 11 p.m. announcement, and there was a lot of uncertainty. I think we all suspected something was going to happen, but we didn't know what and we didn't know when.
I was completely surprised. I was prepared to do parent-teacher conferences that afternoon, and those all got canceled, and I went home and went to bed and woke up to 43 messages from my coworkers saying that we would be going to school for one more day and then wouldn't have school until after spring break.
It's interesting because that particular week we started hearing about all the states shutting down and school districts across the United States shutting down. So I remember Thursday after school, that was on the 12th, I was in a couple other teachers' classrooms and we were all kind of talking about it, like, gosh, what do you think the chances are that it's going to happen in Michigan? What are the chances it's going to happen here? And really, before that week even happened, none of us even foresaw anything like this happening.
We saw dominoes, if you will, kind of start to drop. We were watching other colleges and these really extreme reactions or extreme decisions, but none of us saw that Thursday evening at 11 o'clock press conference with no warning to school superintendents or administrators. We basically had one day to figure out everything that we had to do differently, and we had to teach that day too. So, no big deal.
Leading up, I knew that we would probably miss some days due to the virus, but I guess I didn't know that we would miss all of the days, so we just wouldn't be back. So I thought that was interesting. I was definitely surprised by the fact that we shut it down entirely all year.
And I remember laying in bed watching TV going, and what? What did she just say? I'm sorry. And I get my phone out and I start texting people, and some of my friends, they were sleeping. They missed the whole thing.
We are thankful West Ottawa chose to still come to school on that Friday. A lot of the school districts ended up just shutting down and not even going to school on Friday. But we're really glad we got to be able to meet with students. A lot of teachers came in right before school that day and ran off a bunch of packets and information for students, at least about a month's worth of material. So we all were already thinking, it'll just be a couple weeks, then we'll have spring break, and then we'll see everybody again. So in our heads, that's where we were on March 13th.
That day was just, it felt like such a blur. It was like, I I don't know, every teacher just walked around kind of looking numb, I think.
I am shocked we have made it this far.
I was really sad. I wanted to be able to finish out the school year and thought initially that we would just have those 14 days off and after spring break we'd be able to go back.
I 100% thought we were going to be back. I thought it was going to be the, whatever it was, 3 weeks, and then I think we had like spring break, so it was going to be longer. And I sent all my students home with like my books off my classroom shelves. I was like, take books to read. We'll see you back. When we sat in a circle that day and processed everything, I told them we would see each other again.
I'm not entirely sure if our success is due to all of the things that we're doing really well, or if it's just good luck. Because we see some significant outbreaks at other area schools, and I don't teach there, so I don't know like what are they doing and what are they not doing, and what's different about them that we do or don't do here, or do they just have bad luck? I don't know.
If you would have asked me on March 12th, we were going to be off for a month and then we would all be back. It was going to slow the spread and we would all be able to come back in April. So that was totally the thought process.
I'm not too surprised by the fact that we're dealing with it to this degree still. I think we got almost comfortable a little bit with the fact that it was here and not doing a ton of, we'll say, damage.
I do know it feels like we're just like a day away from a bunch of cases. And I don't mean that we're just one day away from it per se, but it could happen at any point.
I thought it would be over in summer, and I didn't imagine we'd be doing everything that we're doing this year. But my reality kept changing.
Based on any new virus, there's always a period of us getting accustomed, and herd immunity plays in there as well. But I knew it'd be around for a while, and I know a lot of us have that fatigue of having to worry about it, but I think we have some more time yet.
In my weirdest reality, I never pictured that we would still be doing COVID right now.
I miss seeing those kids every day and being able to teach them face to face. I did the best that I could. I met with them virtually doing Google Meets, and I would have an open hour where the students could log in and check in with me or talk to their classmates.
I learned that I was not the best online teacher, and that I have zero desire to teach online permanently.
So when we went remote, the advantage was I already do a flipped class structure in my classes. So the advantage was my students were already pretty used to watching videos for instruction. But then it just became me hosting Google Meets from home and answering questions and kind of doing the in-class stuff and question and answer via Google Meet.
I decided to focus on what we could do instead of focus on what we couldn't do. We obviously couldn't really make shows. We obviously didn't even have a reason to make shows. There wasn't West Ottawa news that the high school needed to disperse in programming like we normally do on a daily basis.
As a 5th grade teacher, I had already kind of been preparing or trying to update my technology skills because I knew I sent them on to middle school where I knew they used Chromebooks more. But I never imagined that it would be my one avenue in which to teach.
It is completely different not having actual human interaction in the classroom, and I think that was what I missed the most about the entire time off. It completely changes how you teach, ultimately, and I think a lot of what we were doing was emergency learning as opposed to true a true virtual experience.
We all, as teachers, kind of scrambled to get out of here on March 13th, so I didn't have all my materials with me, and the buildings were completely shut down. Teachers had no access to anything in the buildings. So a couple of people dropped off whiteboard markers and whiteboards to me, so I had a whole classroom set up in my basement, basically with whiteboards, so that my Chromebook could face the whiteboards and I could still help students using my magic whiteboard down in my basement.
I'm doing a lot more on the Chromebooks than I ever have before. They are really good at Google Classroom. They know how to turn things in. They know how to insert documents into things. I've taught them how to use email, which wasn't something they really knew how to do. So I feel like just a lot more technology so that in the event that we close again, I'm ready, and that they're ready, and that we can, I think, continue on all the things that we've set up this year. I think we can do it from wherever.
I also recognize that you as students were living through this remarkable and memorable time in your life, and we should document that. And so we did do a couple of these COVID closure vlogs, we called them, and it was just, tell us what you're doing, tell us what you're struggling with, tell us how you're filling your time, tell us where you're going and how you're getting outside and what you enjoy. And they ended up getting quite a few views.
What's up, Whoa? It's Ben Riley. It's March 25th during this Coronacation, and I'm here with my brothers.
Hey, Whoa, Molly here on March 25 of the COVID closure.
Hey, Whoa. Hey, everyone. Hey, Wally. I hope you are all staying safe and healthy and calm during this crazy time.
The other thing I was really happy with that we did was the virtual lip dub, which ended up being pretty difficult to pull off. I would say those are the two things that I am most proud of what we did during that time.
The district did a great job of providing materials for the students to do. It just wasn't the same.
I had 25 students last year, and 24 of them were regularly involved. Now, not all 24 did all of the work all the time, but they showed up to meets and they were staying connected with me, and they did some of it.
As the high school set up things with regard to grades and what counted, and it could bring your grade up, but it couldn't necessarily bring your grade down, the majority of my students had pretty awesome grades.
I tried to have a couple Google Meets and didn't have a lot of takers. I was around, I think, 50% completion as far as turning in assignments, things like that.
I had really good participation rates. I had a geometry class and my IB class. My geometry class, I was looking at about 75 to 80% participation before spring break. In my IB class, I had 90% participation rate. But then as soon as we switched over to that value added model, my participation rates dropped drastically.
Initially, the students were really excited to get online and see me. However, as the weeks progressed, they started participating less and less.
I know it was hard for a lot of the kids as well, whether it's technology or motivation, because I think online learning is a skill to some degree.
On one hand, I was super annoyed that students weren't doing work, and the other hand, I was like, that kid has an A or an A minus or a B plus, and if he doesn't want to do this right now, it's okay. It's okay. There's a lot going on.
I ended up with about 20 to 25% of my geometry students participating, and IB was about 60 to 70%.
I had a couple online classes in college and I didn't do very well. And I think that experience helps, and any other experience we have potentially this year will absolutely help with the potential of having to do that in the future. And ultimately, they're not going to have a teacher forever. So if you want to learn something in your adult life, you kind of have to online learn it.
for virtual or remote learning, there's a lot of things that I have put into place. My Google Classroom is super organized with assignments and projects numbered, as well as every resource I can fathom to share with students is all on Google Classroom. There shouldn't be any trouble for students to find what they're looking for. Everything is at their fingertips on our Google Classroom.
Also, finding ways to make everything more accessible to each student. So is there a way, like, are there more videos that I can provide for students, or should I be holding Google Meets more often? Those types of things, however we can meet the needs of the students.
I think the whole teacher community has a few more tools in the toolbox as far as ways that we can engage and interact with our virtual community, if it comes down to that, and just how we plan lessons.
I've also gravitated towards some new technology, some new tech tools.
I'm so much more knowledgeable about some of the technology than I was. So I feel like there are things I could have done differently last spring, just because I know more now about how, like even in Google Classroom, how to grade things and return things to students and stuff like that. I feel like I could have done a lot better job at that, but I just I didn't have the skills yet. But I feel like we did a good job of staying connected as a class.
I like the Google Classroom platform. It was easy for the students to find the work that they needed to do. That was an added bonus that I put in for classwork. The district did a really good job of providing weekly templates for the students to do, and it was consistent from grade level to grade level, so parents were able to follow along.
So I do feel like I'm definitely going into a virtual learning situation much more organized. Lots of tech in place for if we find ourselves in that situation, and not only am I more prepared, I feel the students are more prepared.
We made a list of things we would need to have ready, like student passwords, so we could just make sure they took home with them, that they knew how to get on. So, you know, I think just lists of materials and have just honestly to have spent time thinking through all of that, just because like we don't know when that moment might arise, so just to be ready for it all the time in the event that it happens.
I think that if we end up going remotely again, it's just going to be some trial and error and just seeing what works best for each individual teacher.
My colleague and I in 5th grade feel really, really good about where we are with having our kids know all the technology. We've done a lot of front loading this year, so I feel like, you know, if we were to all of a sudden be told, like, we're going home this week, I feel like I have everything in place that they would be.
I would recommend, I guess, just checking in with your kids. And I know it can be tedious at times writing an email or meeting virtually, but I think that we all still want that interaction, and knowing that you're out there and that you care is a big piece of motivation.
I think that us forcing a ton of content during this pandemic is just a hard pill to swallow for all of us. So really focusing on everybody's mental well-being, but also kind of scaling back all the requirements a little bit, just understanding that there are people that are not necessarily in that same mental state as when they're here in school. Here, everybody is focused and ready to learn, or should be. But when we're at home, there's other distractions. So sometimes there's younger siblings that we have to be watching, or just younger siblings in general running behind your camera, or dogs or cats. So we understand that there's other distractions when we're at home versus when we're here. We can kind of tailor those distractions.
The main thing that I learned was to not take things for granted.
We're resilient no matter what challenges we face, we'll find a way to learn, and if we stay positive, we'll get the most out of this situation.
I think overall, we learned as a society that maybe we can be less busy. And I think a lot of the times prior to this whole virus situation, we wore busy like a badge almost. Like, it's good to be busy. I have to do this thing and this other thing, and it's good to be busy, and why aren't you busy? And I think a lot of us slowed down and realized that we're missing some things, whether it's family dinners or just that time that you wouldn't have quality time if you're running here, running there, having this club practice, this school thing. So I think that was pretty powerful too.
The biggest takeaway for me was just reprioritizing the stuff that's important in life. So putting my family first. So for me personally, it was really awesome to be able to completely clear our calendars. There were things that my family missed out on. There were incredible, my kids missed their sports seasons, so those got canceled. And yeah, that was tragic and heartbreaking. But even though we lost all of those things, we still had our family, and we still found ways to be thankful and joyful, and really looking for the positives in all of these events.
I feel like it's really easy to focus on what was taken away, because a lot of things were taken away. But if you force yourself to remain positive and be appreciative of what you do have and what you can experience and what you can participate in, that's the best mindset. And I'll be honest, that's not always easy, because there are definitely stressful days.
I learned that I can do hard things, that we can make it through anything. And I just think that I'm very lucky to work with a group of people, and honestly, all the staff in West Ottawa, and all the teachers I've worked with, and our principal and everybody. It's just, there's so much support in a time of difficulty, and I feel like if we can make it through all of this and stay positive, and I think the other thing is you just have to be flexible, because like I said, I never imagined, I thought we were going to be back. I never imagined it when conferences canceled, or that we were then going to be told it was going to be 3 weeks, and then I never imagined then that it would be the rest of the year. And so there's no predicting, right? Like in this time, and we just have to be flexible and remain positive. I think a positive attitude is huge, because you could let it get you down really easily.
On a personal note, I really like my family, and I think maybe because my children are 12 and 8, they have a little bit of independence, but they also still kind of like to do fun things with mom and dad. And compared to other families, I think the Walcott crew, that Walcott 4 family, did pretty well and had a good time. And I don't have anxiety about us figuring it out as a family if we go that route again.
We've done it. We've done a lot. We've come a long way, and I feel really proud of that.
I'm just really excited to be back in the classroom teaching, being around other staff members, and working with my students.
We've been able to do the unimaginable, right? So I feel really proud of all of us, and the students too. Like, that's huge.
It was weird. It's weird still, and I think it's going to get weirder before it all gets better.
As teachers, we know there's value in your education, and there's value in what we're trying to teach you guys, but there's also value in the relationship that we've built with all of you.
Don't forget that we are living through this time in our lives that we will remember for the rest of our lives.
I think the kids, you guys have done a great job persevering through all the changes that we've had. I think sometimes better than the teachers. with the 2-hour blocks and the masks and the requirements that you guys kind of have on you, that's a lot for a teenage human, essentially.
Keep on keeping on.